There we go. So great. Thank you everyone for joining us today. How to plan and launch your new website. This is the first, we have a two-part series that we've partnered with Webnames.ca. So I'm very excited that this is our first session in that partnership. My name is Carrie Leoge. I'm the Skills Development Manager here at Women's Enterprise Center. I've had the pleasure of working at this job for about 4 years. And I love doing sessions like this to provide resources and support for entrepreneurs, primarily in BC, but as we see this morning, we have Regina, Saskatchewan. So it's great in this online world that we can be even more far-reaching in sharing our resources and supports. So my role here is to manage all of the training and education pieces like this. So webinars, resources, live workshops. Hopefully that day will come back that we'll be able to do those again as well. So if ever there's a topic that you find that you're looking for some skills development or some education on, please send it to us. We do send out a follow-up email to get that feedback from you because we want to provide content that's relevant for you and supporting you in building your business. Women's Enterprise Center, for some of you may be joining us for the first time, and quite a few I'm sure have been here before, but just quickly an overview of how we empower women entrepreneurs throughout the province. We help you realize your business potential through business loans of up to $150,000. We also have the new recovery loan now for an additional $40,000. So I definitely encourage you to check out our business loans resource page on our website. We have professional advice and resources to support you through your entrepreneurial journey, skills training such as this, award-winning mentoring programs. We have a Taking the Stage program. We have peer mentoring groups, and we have one-to-one mentoring programs. And then also supportive communities. So activities like this, bringing people together and through our outreach through chambers of commerce, business women networking groups, etc. So I do encourage you all to sign up for our e-blasts and e-news if you haven't already. And my colleague Shonda, who's on the session with us today, is in charge of all of that. So she loves when I try and get more subscribers, but it's also how we get the feedback on what it is that you need to run your business and how we can help you even more. So what we're doing right now, which we've been doing for the past, I guess it's about 5 months that we've been in this COVID period, we've created a resource page which Shonda updates on a regular basis, working with our business advisors team to provide you with timely resources and links to other support resources as well, right? So you can check out that page, wec.ca/COVID-19. We have links to the government programming, links to recording for some of the sessions that we did in the spring called Strength in Numbers. So very relevant to how to go through this kind of recovery and rebuilding period as well. So a great resource page for you to continually check as well. So just quickly, I know everybody, maybe we have all Zoom fatigue, but just a quick 101, we are going to be using the Q&A and chat features today. So you should see those icons either at the top or the bottom of your screen. I see a lot of people have participated in the chat already, so that's great. But Julianna and Karthik are going to be taking some of your questions. Shonda and I are going to help kind of moderate that. And I encourage you, as you think of those questions, pop them in there so that we can go back and look at them. And then we can see how the content goes, because there's a lot of great information that we have today. But as a question, if you have questions right away, if something's top of mind, please pop it in there and we'll try and make sure that we get that answered for you today. So today we're really pleased to have with us Julianna Horvat and Karthik Balachander from Webnames, both marketing managers for that organization. So for today's session, they're going to talk to us about planning, which is the most critical factor in any successful website project. Without the detailed plan and a strong understanding of what you need to accomplish your business goals, you can wind up wasting effort, money, and time. So we don't have a lot of that these days with lots that's going on. So we want to make sure that we can afford both the human resource, our time input, and the budget. So today we're going to walk through what you need to consider and to create the resource to build a professional online presence to express who you are and supports your business success. So Julianna has over 10 years of experience in digital marketing and digital product development for both business to consumer and business to business markets at Webnames, CBC Digital Operations, and Van City. A former archaeologist, I love this. She loves data, detail, and storytelling, all of which play a big role in her work as a marketer. And Karthik is an engineer turned marketer with a keen eye for customer behavior and digital analytics. He brings over 8 years of experience in marketing strategy and operations for tech products. He applies his technology background and aptitude for behavioral analysis for results in marketing. So what a great combination, and thank you to both of you for joining us here today. And as we say a few hellos, I'll get you guys to both unmute yourself, and then Karthik, you can go ahead and share your screen. I'll pass the controls over to you. So Julianna, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, everybody. Wow. Hi to Guy, Regina. That's pretty cool.
I know, this is great.
Yeah. Just wait to get our deck up. And
yeah, I'm just going to share my screen.
so we jammed, I'll just start preambling a little. We've jammed a lot of information into this deck. We have a lot of content to go over, so we may end up skipping bits to expedite speed and to answer some of your questions, but there's a lot of resources linked throughout, so we'll just let you know that. So when these ladies make it available after the fact, there'll be lots of content that you can go deeper with.
That's great. Yeah, we'll share, I'll make that note. Thank you. We'll share the recording and also the slides with everyone after as well. Perfect.
All right, so let's zoom ahead. Well, yes.
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, so hello again, everyone. My name is Karthik, and thanks for that lovely introduction. As Julianna said, we have a lot that we've tried to pack into the deck today. We might skip over some of these, but I and Julianna will both be keeping an eye on the questions. So hopefully we manage to answer all the questions you have, even if we don't cover all the stuff that's in here. But we will also be sharing our contact details at the end of the webinar, so you can feel free to write to us, and we'll try and answer all questions as we possibly can.
Absolutely. So if we don't get to yours, marketing@webnames.ca, you can send us a question.
Yeah. So with that, why don't you take us away, Julianna?
Yeah, so, okay, pretty quickly, I'll just begin with who we are. So Webnames was founded in, we were founded in 2000, actually. We were a UBC spinoff company, and we were founded by the pioneers who started the .ca domain name for Canada. And that was way back in 1987. So like most of you, we're a BC company. We're based in Vancouver, right around Science World is our head office. And we have about 30 employees, so we're a small business also. Some of you actually might be familiar with our CEO up there, Sibel Negres. She's done a lot of speaking with organizations like WEC and FWE over the years about topics like entrepreneurship, imposter syndrome, getting more women on boards, and workplace diversity. Those are some of her frequent speaker topics. Webnames is unique in our industry for a number of reasons, but what sort of stands out is that we are a certified women business enterprise, so we're a certified women-owned business, and we're a certified diverse business through CAMC. And that's, I think, what we might be the only registrar hosting company with those certifications. And this is also our 20th anniversary year. So we've been helping tens of thousands of Canadian customers for over 20 years get their web presences online and securing their internet identities. So we're pretty proud of that. Our priority has always been to be an ally on the web to our clients, and our customer support is pretty incredible, and that's sort of what we're known for in the industry. So over to the next slide of what we're going to cover today, hopefully all of it. So planning and launching your website, where you're going to sort of get into 4 main areas here. Setting up your website for success. This is the required research that you need to do ahead of time, securing your business identity, and a little bit of discussion about defining your brand. We'll look at nailing the foundations. So this is determining the components that you need for a successful website. Scope of work. These are questions like, should you do it yourself or should you outsource your website build? And some key considerations for both of those approaches. And then at the end, we've got a pre-launch checklist for you, a number of things to remember about security and different things to do before you launch your website, as well as a really great resource page. So that is there for you if we don't get to it. Okay, so this next slide I'm going to breeze over, but it's interesting because we just got this data yesterday. So these are new yet to be socialized stats completed from a survey of small and micro Canadian businesses. And like I said, it's very recent. I just wanted to highlight them really to reassure you that you're not alone if you don't have a website. Half of Canadian small and micro business owners actually don't have a website. Also, you're not falling behind if you've launched a new business without a website. Generally, it takes about 6 months to do that for about 65% of these small business owners that do have a website. Lastly, nearly half of all Canadian small and micro businesses have built their own website, which is a really interesting stat and speaks volumes to how far the current crop of website builders have come in terms of design, ease of use, and also probably a lot to how much they spend in advertising, because if you've been on YouTube at all in the last few years, you will have seen really flashy, nice video ads for all of them. I'm going to run through this. Well, you're here, so you know you need a website, but it's still really kind of important to emphasize a few things here, particularly why social media profiles are simply not enough. First of all, let's be clear that social media should be just one part of your strategy, not your entire strategy for your digital marketing efforts. Social media does nothing to protect your brand. So what I mean by that is if you only have social accounts, anyone, anywhere can actually register your business name or your brand name as a domain name and put a website up. So registering your business name or brand as that domain really helps establish your legitimacy. So this is a sad anecdote that I'm going to share with you, but Webnames actually, we don't even have our .com name. So this is 20 years ago in the wild days of the early web. We were always intending to be a Canadian company. We started .ca. And our founders didn't snap up the com right away, and it's been owned by one of our competitors ever since. So that's a pretty relevant lesson for us and for you. On social media, you really don't have ownership over your own narrative, content, and visitors. So you don't control your personal business brand and how you show up online when you just have a Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn page. When you have a website, you get to choose what information your visitors see, how to present it, and you get to actually highlight and make choices about your brand's visual identity. And while I don't want to overstate this risk, it is possible to get locked out of your social media platforms. It does happen. So Facebook especially will lock people out for perceived violations of service, maybe with their personal account, and then those people can no longer access their business accounts. So that is also actually a risk. You have access to a much wider and more diverse audience when you have a website, because most people use search. In fact, 70 to 80% of consumers will research a company online before deciding to buy their products or services. In contrast, Facebook's organic reach for business pages has been declining rapidly over the last few years. Obviously, this is a business choice of Facebook, and organic reach from business pages hit an all-time low last year. The algorithm really now requires businesses to pay to play for visibility on Facebook, and those ads are getting more expensive every year. I quickly also note that if your target audience is Gen Z or younger, they're also not really on Facebook. And I can't see the bottom of the slide there, but basically a website increases your credibility. This is a known thing. Tons of surveys have indicated, and user experience testing has indicated when people go to a social media profile, they expect it to link to a website. And lastly, it also provides a foundation for growth. With a website, you get intelligence, you build search authority, so you can show up better in search engines. You get website analytics, where you can learn about your visitors, and you can collect leads. It just gives you so many more options than what you're constrained with in a social media profile. So next, we're going to hand it over. Oh, well, no, actually, this is me still for a little bit here. So we're going to talk about setting yourself up for success. This is the research and inspiration phase, guiding the website that you're going to build.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some slides that both Julie and I will be covering in this part of the webinar. I'm just going to quickly check on the chat to make sure everyone's able to see all the slides, because
It looks great for me here, Karthik.
okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so the first stage of your website planning, I would broadly divide that phase into 4 sections. So as you can see here, you first need to know why you need the website. What role do you expect that website to fulfill for your business, and how you hope to use it, how often, and is it for lead generation? Is it for actual sales itself in the form of e-commerce, or is it just to get information out there? And sometimes a website can be as simple as just protecting your brand name on the internet, because you don't want someone else encroaching on your brand name and maybe taking some of the leads that might actually be looking for you. So your first objective would be to speak with everyone on your team. And if you are the founder or CEO, then to spend a lot of time thinking about what you want your website to do for you. And on the basis of that purpose definition, you would then set up the goals that you expect your website to accomplish in the near term. That's maybe in the next 3 months. As well as in the medium to long term, where you're thinking about a 6-month to a 2.5-year time horizon. So for your goals, depending on what your purpose was, if it's lead generation, you might have a goal that says, okay, in the first 6 months, I want 20 leads to have been generated through my website, because initially getting the word out there, making your website popular can be a little difficult, but as you gather steam, as you become more popular on search engines, and as your business becomes more established, you can obviously expect to improve on that. So you will then need to define your goals and define your audience, because when it comes to creating content, or when it comes to marketing your website, the content that goes on your website will need to be tailored to the audience that you are trying to address. And in most cases, the audience definition is something you might have already done when you decided to set up a business, because you know who you're selling to. But in some cases, it's possible that a website might be tailored only for a segment of your audience and not the entire audience. For instance, maybe if you were catering to the actual let's say if you made products for infants, then the audience technically is the parents, although the content is going to be tailored to parents, although the users or the consumer would likely be the babies themselves. So once you've defined the audience, you also need to build an entire buyer persona and buyer journey, where you analyze each and every aspect of the audience. For instance, this could include how old are they, where do they live, what sort of occupations are they usually engaged in, how much does their household potentially make, and these factors are very useful to inform what kind of ad campaigns you might be able to run to them, what kind of messaging might they find attractive, and where might you potentially find them, right? Because if you know that your audience is like generally located in certain types of suburban areas around cities. That will help you identify the kind of websites that you might want to advertise on, the kind of news websites that you might potentially want to advertise on. So it's critical that you create a persona for every segment in your audience and understand them completely, so that helps you customize the kind of content that goes on your website and customize the kind of campaigns that you can run to get them to your website. The final step is maybe not necessarily a one shot. It's going to be an ongoing thing where you need to know, who are you up against? What are your competitors doing online? Is it working for them? So as you know, on Google, ranking your website high up can be one of the most powerful sources of getting traffic to your website, which means you need to know who you're going to have to replace on Google search results. And for knowing that, you need to know what they have done that has worked for them, and is there something you can learn from that? So to understand all of these, we will be talking about a few tools in the upcoming slides, which will help you measure the volume of traffic that you receive on your website, and which will help you analyze who is visiting your website through a search engine, and all kind of analytics that help you optimize this going forward.
Yeah, really, we'll get into a lot of that in our follow-up webinar also that we're doing with WEC, where we're really focused on building your traffic. Right now, I'm gonna, this is a favorite topic of mine, so I'll try to be very informational but fast, because I can go on and on here. Locking down your online identity. This is about securing your domain names, your social accounts, and your business email. So your domain name, it matters a lot. Of course, we're in the domain name business, but still, I can't overstate that, because it's the foundation of your brand online, and it will be referenced in everything you do. Your business cards, your social media profiles and posts, any digital or print advertising you do, media, on and on and on. So the importance of getting a great one should not be underestimated. So when you start doing some research about building your website, lots and lots of these articles about planning and the steps and all of that have this way down on the food chain. And this should not be way down on the food chain. It makes no sense. You should be doing this early on. Securing your online brand, it needs to be done as early as possible. Even if you're just in ideation mode, I would say that domain names are generally pretty expensive and they disappear fast. So they're available one day and they're gone the next. So it's nice to have a bit of a budget to buy a few of them, and then you have a bit of a pool to play with. So quickly, to go over the points on the right, this is going to sort of guide you through getting a really good domain name and the social and email sort of accounts that you need that follow that. So first step is you're going to want to brainstorm with friends, hopefully, savvy business people over a bottle of wine, just brainstorm ideas and churn them out for names and come up with sort of a short list or a handful that you can then take into the second bullet, which is researching them to see what's available. So you'll want to do this on a domain search like we have at Webnames. You'll want to do it in a domain marketplace, also called the aftermarket, where people list domains that they have registered for sale. There are services like back orders that list expiring domain names, which oftentimes you can find a real gem. Somebody's just decided not to register it again. And there's also name suggestion tools out there. I would look through all of those to sort of figure out what your best options are. What you're going to want to prioritize in your domain name is brevity, clarity, keywords are pretty good, it depends, and brandability. Now, brandability is a little bit of a je ne sais quoi sort of thing. But by that, I mean, when you hear or see the domain name, it sounds like a brand. Like what comes to mind for me is, I don't know if any of you have heard of Allbirds. They're a sustainable shoe company, or Made Good, the snack company. Made Good isn't like saying crunchy granola snacks, .ca. They've gone with the brandable name, Made Good. Below this, I've linked to some common domain mistakes that you're going to want to avoid. And this is just simple stuff like obscure spellings, hyphens, abbreviations, numbers, things like that. If you can't say it clearly or you need to explain it, avoid that in your domain registration. This is important. I really recommend getting the best domain that you can afford and buying it from a reputable registrar like us, and there's obviously other reputable registrars out there. But by getting the best domain you can afford up front, it's really going to set you up for success. So really look into, what's on sale or what other people are selling. Maybe for, you might be able to get a pretty good domain for, $25 when you're registering it, but maybe the perfect domain name is $1,000. And if you have that budget, it's going to make a huge difference for the life of your company. You're going to want to secure name-aligned social accounts. Generally, it's going to be really hard to find these, I think. The exact matches will probably be taken because there's zillions of social media accounts out there that aren't used. But that said, you can actually do creative things here. Like adding abbreviations, numbers, dots, the kind of things you would avoid in your domain name. Those things can be okay in your social media accounts as long as they sort of align and reference back to your domain name and they're consistent. And lastly, I know that this is probably something the ladies at WEC have written about and talked about. Please only use matching domain named email address for your business communications. When you're using your @TELUS or your @Gmail, you're really just promoting them. And when you use domain-based email, so an email address that references your domain name, you're building the strength of your brand every time you use it.
So we had a poll on the topic of affordability of domain names. So I think now would be a great time for us to see what you think before we address that. I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to respond to this poll, and then we'll continue.
Great, thank you. While those poll answers are coming in, just quickly here, we are getting asked how to secure your domain name. And it is just by doing that search, deciding on what it is that you want, and if it's available, paying that fee, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yep. And then another question that's come in is, do you have to register that name yearly? Is there a yearly fee? So I know you don't have to re-register, but you do have to pay to maintain it, right?
Well, you don't have to re-register it, but you have to renew it yearly. Yeah. So, or whatever the term you choose. So if you register it for 1 year in the beginning, then it's going to come up every year around the same time to renew it, unless you set it to auto renew, which we highly recommend. Or you can register it for 5 years off the bat, whatever is sort of right for you. But definitely you're going to want to look at keeping on top of all those renewal notices or putting it onto auto renewal so you never lose that domain if it's the one that you're using for your website. Right.
And then, so I'm going to, Karthik, it looks like you're grabbing a poll, so that's great.
Yeah.
And another question we're seeing is, if you have a .org domain name, can you switch port to a .ca or buy a new .ca? And is .ca better or .com? And I don't know if that's something we want to get into on the website, or if you have a on the webinar. Or if you have
if you go to Webnames blog, we talk about this a lot. But I can quickly answer. So in Canada, Canadian consumers really trust .ca. They prefer it, studies have been shown, and the benefit of .ca is there's a good amount of availability in .ca compared to .com, which is, the granddaddy of all domains and has had pretty much most things snapped up unless you're willing to sort of buy a domain from someone else. But I love .com, I love .ca, and I think that if you can afford or find your com is always a strong choice too.
Yeah, really, and to the question.
Sorry, go ahead, Karthik.
Yeah, and to the initial part of the question about .org and whether you can port it over to a .ca, you can have as many domain names as you want, and all of them could point to the same website. It's known as a redirection. So, and it's commonly done by most medium and large businesses in order to protect their own brand, because otherwise there might be people who could misuse it or abuse it for fraud.
Right.
So moving it is something that should be fairly simple. You can get in touch with our support team for assistance, or you can ask your web designer or developer.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so if I'm continuing with, I see the poll results have been shared, so that was interesting.
Yeah, I've just shared that, so we had good response.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so continuing from where Julianna was talking about the importance of defining the brand. As you might remember, the first step was knowing who you're talking to, knowing your audience. And now we're talking about knowing who you are and how we want to present our own company, our brand to the web. Over here, it becomes a case of defining the strategy that will be taken away by that audience. So it might include a whole plethora of things, but the most crucial thing is what you promise to your customers. Does your brand name and your brand language in the form of the visuals that are present on your website, in the form of the font that you use, is it accessible to the folks that you're targeting? Is your purpose clear in the way you've written copy on your website? And is your service itself defined clearly? Because sometimes you might be offering a product which can be fairly commoditized, which everyone knows and understands fairly easily. But for innovative products and services, it might not be as clear. So the way it is presented on your website, whether in the form of a video, whether in the form of a testimonial, that becomes very important. And all of that weaves into the brand strategy, where do you want to present yourself as a problem-solving company, or do you want to present yourself as an innovative company? Because that defines perceptions that customers take away. Like a brand like Apple evokes very different reactions in our minds from a brand like maybe Canada Goose. And all of this is because there is a lot of careful thought that has gone into defining the story of the brand, the kind of words that are associated with it when the brand communicates with you. So your user experience that's there on the website needs to align with the kind of user experience you or customer experience you might be delivering to folks when they interact with you. So this slide is just a quick example of the brand language and how it might transition on your website. For instance, it might, many brands find it helpful to have a brand design guide, which creative agencies might build for you with maybe custom fonts or even a less popular font that people might come to associate with your particular brand. So it would totally depend on what you want, how you want to paint the picture of your brand and how you want customers to see your brand.
Yeah, and I will just quickly chime in and say that this is easier than ever for small business people now. There's lots of pre-made branding kits or lots of designers that you can access on services like, I don't know, Fiverr, Upwork, different things like that. Etsy has pre-made branding kits. Canva has pre-made brand kits where you put in all your colors and it helps you sort of pick all these elements to stay consistent with your visual brand. So what's sweet about the time that we're in is this is now easier than ever, and you don't have to go to a super expensive designer to set this all up for you.
Right. So now that we know what we want the brand to look like and who we are talking to, let's get to planning and what that actually means for building the website. The first thing that you would want to define is what components do you need on your website? Is it like most websites have parts like your logo, and some of them have a search bar, there's a menu and internal links, testimonials. It's easy to get overawed by the number of different things you should maybe vote yes or no on. But one thing that I would recommend strongly is function should dictate form. And what I mean by that is, what purpose does this particular feature solve for you on that website or on that particular page? Is that required for you or not? Should be the primary driver behind deciding whether you should have a certain feature. Put yourself in the shoes of your customers or your leads. And in design thinking, which is a common product management school of thought, it's empathy is the first step of design thinking, and they force designers and product managers to think like a customer so that they can build user experience that customers can relate to and navigate effortlessly. So to start with, list all the kind of pages that you want, but not all of them might be absolutely necessary. So prioritize them and filter it down to the pages that you absolutely need. And focus on the parts of the website that people are most likely to engage with. For instance, what's on the top part of the website or part of a page is what's likely to get the most eyeballs. Oftentimes, people may not scroll down further, so that content might not be as important as what's right at the top on a given page or on your home page. That's why your menu, your CTAs, calls to actions, or buttons, or forms, those are the most important parts for you to spend a lot of time thinking about and experimenting with. And of course, certain features such as being mobile friendly or responsive, so that if you have audiences who visit your website on the phone, they're able to read everything and the website does not break in a sense. And the last bit, of course, is analytics, because you need to be able to measure how your audience interacts with your website and therefore optimize it over a period of time. And also give thought to how frequently you might need to update your website so that it's accurate, or to help search engine optimization, to decide what kind of a website you need, whether it needs to be something you can manage on your own, or whether it can be something that you outsource to a website designer or developer. So which parts of the website do you really need? As we spoke about earlier, the goals could be things like, it could be leads that you want to generate, it could be e-commerce that you want to do, it could be a brochure website where it's just information dispersal, or it could be a forum or a social media style website where your objective is to get people talking to each other or comment on things, for instance, like a Reddit, right? So each of these goals are going to inform the kind of features you require on the website. For instance, contact forms or chat bots or chat windows are important for generating leads, whereas having a cart and product page and an account creation functionality is important for e-commerce. So your goals are going to define the kind of features that are essential to the kind of website you want to build. To kind of summarize this part, I would say start small. Don't get maybe carried away by some of the newest features you might have seen on a fancy website or a new trend. In this case, the memes talk about chatbot, which used to be huge in like 2017 maybe. But start small. Make sure you have the basics of everything that you need on your website. Don't spend a lot to start with. Get your website out there, launch, and then use analytics to track how people are interacting with your website, how your audiences are using your website, and then build features for them rather than building features that are maybe just good to look at, but maybe not have a lot of value to your customers. So once you have a sense of the features that you want for customers, you also need to give some thought to the features or parts of the website that will help you promote your website. And these are what I call here as marketing building blocks. So the marketing building blocks can significantly vary depending on the type of business you are in. But there are certain things that I would consider non-negotiables, and I've put them down here as the basics. I don't think anyone would decline free traffic to the website. And that's what makes search engine optimization such a crucial part of it, because it can be long-term, it can be sustainable, and it's essentially sort of free, because for you to rank higher on search engine results, what you need to do is create good, relevant content, which your customers anyway need. And a few essentials to getting that part of it right is to create an account on Google Search Console and submit your website over there, which will inform Google that this is your website, this is your sitemap, or the list of pages on your website. And it will give you insights about how people are searching for your website on Google, and where your website is ranked, who are you competing against on the search engine rankings, and so on. And Google My Business, it's relevant more so for business to consumer services or products, where it allows you to list yourself on the map, and allows people to contact you on the phone or through a variety of different ways on Google. And needless to say, you will. We strongly recommend that you create highly relevant and unique content on your website. A blog is a very effective way to do that, but that need not be the only way for you to do it. You could create more landing pages on your website. And one huge power-up that exists on search engine optimization is local keywords. And I'm going to spend a minute in trying to explain what this is. For instance, if you're running a business which has a physical location where you're providing services by meeting with clients, although that's difficult these days thanks to COVID. But if that's the nature of your business, if you're like a nail spa, then focus on the customers who are most likely to come to you for those services. And that's likely to be maybe a geographic radius of 5 to 10 kilometers from wherever you're located. That's common sense, and we all know that intuitively. But when it comes to searching on Google, most people are not likely to look up nail spa in a particular location. They are likely to just look up nail spas, but Google is smart enough to identify where you are located and provide you locations of nail spas in your region. So make sure that your website contains adequate use of keywords that talk about your location, so that you can rank higher on Google. And often we've found that while you might not be the #1 ranked business for that sector in your country or in your province, you can pretty easily get to the first page of that by using good geographic targeting on search engine optimization. And one final point over here is to make sure that you treat your website as a part of your business. Make sure you update it on your business cards, on your flyers, and any other marketing collateral you might have, because it's important to create one holistic presence and unify all your branding, so that the brand language and people trust your website as part of the combined entity that's your company. In addition to that, depending on the kind of business you are, there might be other options like email marketing, newsletters, or even drip campaigns that are automated, or CRM integrations, and even advertisements. But obviously, that's the part of the marketing blocks that we will be covering in our next webinar later this fall. That brings us to getting started on building the website.
Yeah, so it's a big lead up to this, but we've got the last 15 minutes-ish to focus on this here. Also, like Karthik said, a lot of the sort of marketing activities and traffic generation activities we'll be addressing in a follow-up webinar coming in the next couple of weeks. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is, should you use a website builder? Because we're going to tackle, like I said earlier, should you use a website builder and DIY it, or should you go with a pro? So if you could switch to the next slide for me, that would be wonderful. So I have a lot of content built into this slide, and it's important content, but because there's lots of points, I'm going to focus on these starred ones, which I kind of think are among the most important here. As we saw earlier, nearly 50% of Canadian small and micro business owners with a website have built it themselves. So if you're leaning towards doing it yourself and you don't want to commit, you won't want to commit to a website builder, certainly, without a clear understanding of what you're getting into. So in terms of a pro for website builders, big one is affordability. They are really affordable, especially upfront, but over the years, it's important to keep in mind that that total cost of ownership can really creep up. And, you know, for some websites, it can even cost more than getting a custom designed one in the beginning, where you only have to pay for some basic hosting over the years. So that all comes back to, again, like Karthik talked about, what kind of website you need, how much you need to be involved in doing the work to maintain it. Also, with some of the out-of-the-box website builder builds, there can be a cost of missed opportunities in terms of SEO. A lot of them are quite good in terms of SEO, but there's nothing better than a custom build if you're really relying on search engine results as a strategy to gain business. Another thing that can wind up costing you over time is if that website builder is no longer meeting your needs and you need to switch to something else. So those are some of the costs that you're going to want to consider when you're sort of researching website builders. Skipping ahead, because we'll talk about some of these other points in the next few slides as well. Another one, no, back please, sorry. There we go, thank you. Is that website builders are truly designed for non-technical users. This is the beauty of them. Many of them are very easy to use with drag and drop interfaces, WYSIWYG editors, and they generally include most of the features that you could need or even think of. Most of us, if you know how to use Word, Google products like Google Docs and that sort of thing, you could probably build an okay website, a pretty decent one these days. But again, it goes back to the type of website you need. The con of this is that you are stuck in the box of templates and features that your website builder provides with no access to the code underneath to do anything that's truly custom. If it doesn't have a feature or function that you need, you could wind up stuck. The next one down that I'm going to talk about is industry genre specific templates, designs, and images. This is something to love about website builders. Many of them offer a choice of professionally designed, beautiful contemporary templates. I sound like an advertisement, but it's true. And they do this for a variety of genres and industries. So they've got a whole suite of templates and images and iconography for like accounting or real estate or beauty services, restaurants, or whatever you need. So you can use their stuff, or you can use your own images that you buy off a website or anything too. But so this makes it really easy to get a nice, relevant website. But the con of this is that you can often end up spotting other websites, sometimes even competitors that look a lot like yours because people can be using the same templates and a lot of the same images. So if the visual identity of your brand and the uniqueness of your brand is really important to you for your long-term growth and how you want your consumers to think of you, then this might not be the right route for you. But if you're just like a smaller business, and it could just be fine, especially if, say, you have local customers. So that's a consideration. And the last important one is the maintenance. So with website builders, the charm is you can generally maintain them yourself pretty easily. You can make changes and publish those instantly. But you can do that with a professionally designed site too. Most designers these days won't leave you in the lurch with being unable to update your own content if you need to be. You'll need to use them for more intensive sort of updates, but that is, you know, that you will be able to do some of that in a professionally designed site as well. The other thing to think about is if you outgrow your website builder or end up needing things that it doesn't provide, exporting and moving your content out of it can be very hard. So if you put a lot of time into that, that might be quite jarring if you come to that point and you have to set up again from scratch. Okay, next slide, please. So these are some of the considerations that you're going to want to give thought to before you go the DIY route. First of all, who will design and maintain the website? Obviously, like, is that going to be you? Will you have some technical help? How technical are you? Yes, they're pretty easy, but they can still be a lot of work. So if it's a pretty straightforward website that you're building, like say like content, some lead generation forms, maybe even a booking system, if you have, you know, a resort or something, you'll probably be all good, but you'll need to consider that. What is your time worth? So in the last slide, we sort of mentioned total cost of ownership. So it's important to put a value on your own time. If you're going to be doing all the building, content writing, maintenance, what are you not doing instead? What time are you losing in other activities? For example, client work or networking. So website builders, doing it yourself and maintaining yourself are a big time commitment. So you need to keep that in mind. What will it cost over time? Do the math, always do the math. So many of them offer first year introductionary promotional price. That's a lot of words, but you know what I'm saying. So but the next year, those costs can go up quite a bit. You'll also always want to budget some extra in for your costs. So I've got some cost estimates on the side here. What you can expect to pay is around $75 to $600 a year, $600 a year being on the really intensive sort of e-commerce side where you're, you know, you've got a secure shopping cart and you've got lots of products. So there's a real range in there. So you're going to want to sort of do that math over time. And like I say, read the pricing fine print, because oftentimes there's a first year promotional price and it goes up after that. The other thing that you're going to want to budget for are some optional extras, because you're probably going to need them, whether those are app integrations, like things like maybe Square or an email marketing service. I talked about earlier, like a pre-made brand kit, logo maker, logo design, that sort of stuff. Oh my gosh, we have 5 minutes left. Content writing. So these are all things that you will want to budget for. Very quickly, this is the checklist of what to look for in a website builder. So keep in mind what your priority is. Is it ease of use, beautiful design? Do you want to get a website up really quickly? These different web builders excel at different things. So that should come through in your research. On the right here is a checklist of what I would look for if I was shopping around for a website builder, because a lot of them are good, but like I said, they excel at different things. So confirm what's included with it, make sure it's mobile responsive. Over 50% of the traffic on the web today is off a mobile device, so that's super important. They almost all are, so you should be good there. Look at the feature list. Like Karthik said, really nail down your features, make sure they're all there, and the ones that maybe you would want in the future. How secure is it? Does it have HTTPS? Does it have backups? Does it have malware scans? And the last couple bullet points here are the most important, in my mind anyways. So try a couple of them out. They all have free trials. See how easy they are to use. Assess the quality of resources that they have and the customer support. So lots of them have great video resources, some of them don't. And I don't just mean 24-hour customer support. Really check out the independent reviews of how their support teams support you when you're stuck and you're trying to accomplish something that you're having trouble with. There's a great resource linked on this page also if you're thinking of the DIY route, which I would recommend checking out.
So we spoke about the option of using a website builder like Weebly or one of the others on the previous slide, but there's another option which is kind of in between using a web designer and using a website builder, which is quite rigid in the kind of opportunities it lets you to customize the website, and that's using WordPress. WordPress is a content management system. That's the CMS abbreviated over here. It's not exactly a website builder, but there are add-ons that you can use which make it almost as good as a website builder. So we've linked on this slide our own WordPress website builder product, which lets you drag and drop. But the advantage, the single biggest advantage that you have with a WordPress option is you can start building your website using this. But if in the future you feel that you've outgrown that website and you want your own custom designed website, it's much easier for you to export what you have here to build on a new website, unlike the case with a website builder. Moving on. The obvious question, should you hire a website designer? So just like Juliana spoke about how much it might cost if you were using a website builder, using a professional designer could cost substantially more depending on the scope of work. I know that $1,000 to $60,000 is a pretty wide range, but typically you can expect your project to cost between $3,000 to $6,000 and about $500 to $20,000 to maintain after that. And that variability is because the cost could depend on how much traffic you get on the website. So quickly, the single biggest hurdle you might face here could be in terms of identifying vendors and what I would recommend in terms of who you trust to build your website is look at websites that you like, look for reviews online, look for advice from your friends or word of mouth. Many websites have a link on the footer to the company that actually built that website. Look it up and make sure that you can contact them and maybe see if they can build a website for you. There was a question on chat that spoke about, is it important to update your copyright year on the footer of your website? That's a personal quirk of mine where I look at it and my impression of a company whose footer is not updated goes down a little bit because it shows there may be lack of attention to detail. But again, that's completely up to you. In most cases, yes, keep your website as up to date as possible to present a more rounded impression of your website. I know I'm moving past a lot of content here, but unfortunately we're all at 11 already.
Yeah, we still have a lot of, I was just interrupting, it looks like we still have a lot of our participants still online, which is awesome. Thank you for sticking through with us. Sorry we're rushing, but just go, Karthik. I think people are sticking around. So.
I think we can add a few minutes for sure because this content is so valuable and we've got lots of questions coming in. So
perfect, yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that do have to jump off, if you've got a hard stop at 11, the recording will be sent out in the follow-up email. So you can review as well. But yeah, please, if we've got another couple of minutes to get through the slides, definitely do that because it's very, very good content. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah. So if there's literally one slide that you take away from this deck, to me, it would probably be this, because we've tried to kind of make a checklist of every single important recommendation that we would make, whether it's for you or for your team that's building your website. Make sure that you have pretty much every item over here covered for security, for your branding, for adequate marketability of your website. A lot of these are links to external services that will help you accomplish each of those objectives.
The one thing that I would just quickly add to that last slide that isn't on there, but Karthik mentioned it throughout, and I breezed over it in my DIY considerations, but it's super important, is that content is still king, right? So whether you're using a website builder or having it built yourself, really, really, really focus on your content. Karthik talked about this earlier, it's still the most important thing. If you're using a website builder that may have a little bit more limitations around SEO, your content is going to be super important in that too. So I just wanted to reiterate that one because it can't be reiterated enough.
Yeah, and one note that I would also want to call attention to is security for your website. A lot of businesses have taken a second look at whether they should have a website due to COVID, but it's also given rise to an increase in the amount of fraud and phishing and spamming that's going on. So in order to protect your own brand, in order to protect your information, your customers' information, here are a few recommendations. And absolutely, needless to say, never reuse passwords if you can manage it. Use your browser's built-in password manager or some of the password managers that I've named here. LastPass is quite great at it. To make sure that you don't suffer from a type of attack known as credential stuffing. You might have read about the attack on the CRA recently, and that was a classic example of people reusing one set of credentials on a website to another. And use multi-factor authentication if you can on all the accounts that allow for it. As regards a website, we cannot stress on the importance of an SSL certificate. That's the HTTPS you see here on the screenshot enough. It's incredibly important that you have your website HTTPS protected, because it conveys credibility to your customers that their data is protected when it's being sent to and from your website.
And also Google likes it. So it's super Google.
It helps you with your search engine optimization.
Yeah, it'll help you with your search engine optimization because they want your website secure.
Okay, I know that we have a whole bunch of questions here.
Right.
I'm going to take a look at it while maybe Juliana can talk about this one.
Perfect. So it's our 20th anniversary this year. We know a lot of businesses are struggling. A lot of people are also jumping into side hustles and side gigs and launching new things in response to COVID. So we have an initiative right now called our Light Site Initiative, where you can have a free .ca domain name, a one-page website, and a matching email account to get that new idea off the ground quickly and easily. It's a way of getting a solid web presence up for a new idea without all the bottlenecks and costs and thinking necessarily associated with building a whole entire website, because the one page really does simplify stuff. And I've also linked to a blog post that we just recently did for Women's Enterprise Center about how to really make a great one-page website, a really effective one. So do take advantage of that offer. It's free for a full year, and then it's completely up to you if you decide you want to renew it or not. You can even just use it for a great CA domain name and email address. So we think it's really valuable, so we just want to highlight that.
All right, so I'm going to try and take a few questions from the Q&A section here, as long as we have some time. So one question here was, what protects you from your competition stealing your content? That's a great question. Yeah, Juliana, if you want to weigh in on that.
No, you go ahead, and then I will.
All right,
yeah.
Sure. So one of the, there's no direct protection about from a competitor stealing your content, but one thing you should keep in mind is Google knows and tries to index every single website that's out there, and therefore they have a log of which content came online first. If they see that a content is duplicated, then they push down the one that was copied on their search rankings, so it acts as a penalty. They might also alert you on your Google Search Console account that someone else is a replica of your content. So you can definitely keep tabs on that. There's no protection, unfortunately, against it, but it is an edge case that I wouldn't worry about too much in the early days.
Well, Karthik's picking out another question. I would just let this group know that we have this matrix on our very last slide of resources for you that we've put together. I'll just quickly show it there, and then we can go back to questions with a bunch of the resources that we like and we think are really good for starting out, from free picture sites to places where you can create social media imagery and website imagery and do your keyword analysis for writing your content, all the stuff. So you can feel free to poke around on that too.
Yeah, so a couple more questions. One was from Katrin, who was not able to join at the start of the webinar. She's asking if it's recorded. Yes, it is recorded. So the folks at WEC will be sharing a recording, I believe, on email. So don't worry about that.
Great. Yeah.
There's a question addressed to you, Juliana. After a year, how much are we expecting to pay for a one-page website? As the slide just spoke about, you can maybe reference it again.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so the one-page website, the the free offer one that Webnames has provided, that's free for a year. I think the renewal cost for that one-page website, email, and it's also has HTTPS security with the CA domain is $50 for a year. So it works out to you know, I don't know, the equivalent of a lunch out per month. But there's other also one-page website builders out there too that you can shop around at. And so the prices will vary, but generally like for all of those features, that's probably a pretty good ballpark between, I'd say $25 to $50 a year for a one-page website, which is pretty great value for getting yourself online.
Great. So I'm just going to jump in with one quick final question because it's come in a couple times. It's about using hyphens in your domain name.
Oh, hyphens.
Yes.
If you can avoid it at all costs is what I would say. Karthik, you can jump in because maybe you're less passionate about avoiding hyphens than I am. But I really recommend if you can get around doing it. Hyphens in numbers and domains are just really difficult. The reason you can find what you think is a great domain available with a hyphen in it between two really like great keywords is because people don't want to register domains with hyphens. I don't mean to be too strong about this, but they, like when you're reading them out, it's hard to convey. People don't necessarily grasp it. Even when you're sort of seeing it printed, it's easy to forget. So if you can avoid it, we recommend avoiding it.
Perfect. And I've just grabbed this screen there quickly because we are a few minutes over time. So thank you everybody for hanging on and the great content. Shonda did a great slide here pointing you right to part 2. So once you've got that website up and running and ready to go, join us for that second session, September 17th. We'll walk you through how getting the traffic to your website. So that's very key. As well, we've got an export ready one. So if you're looking to grow your business outside of BC, and that can be within Canada as well, it can be as simple as sending your product or service to Alberta. We've got a great panel discussion on that. And then of course, obviously, opportunities with the government of Canada. They don't just buy products, they also buy services. And especially in COVID, they're looking for a lot more partners in their supply chain as well. So we'll have a session on that. And upcoming also some great programming that we have, mentoring groups. We have one starting pretty quick here in Terrace. So if you know anybody that would like to join a live group, smaller group, and then also Northern BC peer mentoring group virtual, taking the stage, financial fitness webinars. So again, if you want to understand the financial side of your business, we have those coming up. So very quickly, thank you all for your patience as we did go a bit over, but Julianna and Karthik, thank you so much. That was great information. I've jotted down a few notes here for myself as well. So thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining us, for participating today, for asking all your questions. And again, we'll send out the recording and all the resources that have been shared today. So again, thank you, Julianna. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Shonda in the background. And thank you all for joining. Have a great day, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.